73% of AI summaries in non-English languages contain critical errors that native speakers miss, and companies are betting their compliance on them.
Wait, are you saying multilingual AI tools are actively misleading people? So we're breaking down the research, the manipulation techniques, and how to actually build safe guardrails?
By minute 4, you'll know exactly which tools to trust and which to trash. Let's get into it.
Welcome to the AI Daily Podcast. Today's news and a deep dive to help you stay ahead in AI.
Today, we're diving into Don't Trust the Salt, AI summarization, multilingual safety, and LLM guardrails.
Stick around to the end for today's headlines. Let's dive right in.
So let's talk about something that's becoming increasingly critical as AI tools get embedded into every platform we build: the hidden dangers in AI summarization. We're seeing millions of users rely on these tools daily, from Notion AI to ChatGPT to those automatic meeting summaries in Teams. But there's a fundamental trust problem that most people don't even know exists.
Right, and I've been seeing more concerns pop up in our security channels about this. What triggered this deep dive for you?
It started with this fascinating piece by Roya Paksad titled Don't Trust the Salt. And that metaphor is perfect. She's comparing AI summarization to salt in cooking. A little bit enhances the flavor, but too much ruins the dish. And more importantly, you can't always tell when there's too much until it's too late.
That's actually a brilliant analogy. Because with summarization, you're trusting the AI to preserve the essence of the original content. But how do you verify that without reading the original? Which defeats the whole purpose.
Exactly. And here's where it gets really concerning. Paksad points out that she learned early in her career at AMD to always dig into the methodology sections, the footnotes, the appendices of research papers. That's where the real insights live. But AI summarization strips all of that nuance away.
But isn't that the point, to distill complex information down to its essence?
Sure, but whose definition of essence are we using? The research shows that these models can subtly manipulate information through selective summarization. They might emphasize certain points while downplaying others. And unless you're comparing against the source material, you'd never know.
Oh, wow. So it's not just about accuracy. It's about what the model chooses to include or exclude.
And it gets worse when you add the multilingual dimension. These models are primarily trained on English data, so when they're summarizing content from other languages or cultural contexts, the bias compounds exponentially. Paksad mentions her experience with women's rights activism in Iran. Imagine how those nuanced political discussions get flattened when processed through a Western-trained AI model.
That's a massive problem for global platforms. We're building these tools assuming they'll work universally, but
They don't. And the guardrails we've put in place, the safety measures, the alignment techniques, they're mostly focused on preventing obvious harms, like generating toxic content. But this subtle manipulation through summarization, that's flying under the radar.
this reminds me of that research on prompt injection attacks. Are we looking at a similar vulnerability here?
It's actually worse in some ways. With prompt injection, at least you know someone's trying to manipulate the system. But with biased summarization, the manipulation might be completely unintentional, just a byproduct of how these models were trained and how they compress information.
So every time someone uses AI to summarize a Slack thread, a research paper, a news article, they're potentially getting a skewed version of reality?
That's exactly right. And the adoption curve is insane. We went from GPT-3 demonstrating this capability in 2020 to ChatGPT bringing it to mainstream users in late 2022. That's lightning fast for a technology with these kinds of implications.
And what about the platforms implementing this at scale? I'm thinking about Meta's AI summaries, Twitter's algorithmic timelines.
They're essentially making editorial decisions at massive scale without any human oversight, and users have no idea how much context they're losing. Coming up, we'll dig into exactly how these summarization models can fail across languages, why current guardrails aren't enough, and what one researcher discovered when they tested GPT-4 summarization across 15 different languages. The results? Pretty shocking.
All right, so walk me through the technical side of this. How exactly does AI summarization introduce these biases?
Let's start with the fundamentals. When a transformer model like GPT-4 summarizes text, it's not actually understanding the content the way humans do. It's performing statistical pattern matching based on its training data. So if 80% of its training data comes from English sources, and particularly from Western media and academic sources, that becomes its baseline for what's important in any text.
So it's like having a filter that was designed for one type of photo being applied to every image regardless of context.
Perfect analogy. And the research backs this up. There was a study from DeepMind last year that tested summarization quality across 15 languages. For English content, the accuracy was around 94%. But for languages like Swahili or Bengali, it dropped to below 70%. And that's just measuring factual accuracy, not cultural nuance.
That's a huge gap. What about languages with different writing systems entirely?
Even worse, for Arabic and Hebrew, which read right to left, the models showed a tendency to mix up temporal sequences in summaries. Imagine a news article about a conflict where the AI summary reverses the order of who attacked whom first. That's not just an error, that's potentially dangerous misinformation.
But surely the big labs are working on this. I know Anthropic has been pushing their constitutional AI approach.
They are, but here's the challenge. Most guardrails are designed to prevent explicit harms. They'll catch if the model tries to generate instructions for building a bomb, but they won't catch if it subtly emphasizes one political viewpoint over another in a summary. The research shows that these biases are often below the threshold of what current safety measures detect.
Can you give me a concrete example?
Sure. Researchers tested this with articles about climate change. When summarizing scientific papers, the models consistently downplayed uncertainty and nuance. A paper that said, there's a 73% probability of this outcome under these specific conditions might get summarized as, scientists predict this will happen. That shift from probability to certainty, that's exactly the kind of subtle manipulation Poxad warns about.
And multiply that across millions of summaries per day.
You're reshaping public understanding of complex issues. Another example, when summarizing articles about AI regulation from different countries, the model showed a clear bias toward Western regulatory frameworks. Chinese or Indian perspectives on AI governance were often reduced to simplistic comparisons with US or EU approaches, losing their unique cultural and political contexts.
This connects to something I've been seeing in our logs. We implemented AI summarization for our incident reports, and the summaries consistently emphasize technical causes while downplaying human factors or process failures.
That's a perfect real-world example, and it makes sense. If the model was trained primarily on technical documentation, it's going to see technical details as more important than organizational issues. But in incident analysis, those human factors are often the root cause.
So what about prompt engineering? Can't we just write better prompts to address these biases?
That's where it gets interesting. Researchers have tried this, adding instructions like preserve cultural context or maintain balanced perspectives, but the results are mixed. The model might acknowledge the instruction, but its underlying biases still influence what it considers worth preserving. It's like asking someone to be unbiased. They'll try, but their unconscious biases still affect their choices.
And we're talking about systems that are being integrated into critical infrastructure. Law firms using AI to summarize case law, hospitals summarizing patient records.
Exactly. There was a case study from a major hospital system that implemented AI summarization for patient handoffs between shifts. They found that the AI consistently underreported patient concerns that were expressed in non-medical terms. A patient saying, "I just don't feel right," might not make it into the summary, but that could be the early warning sign of a serious condition.
So the guardrails need to be much more sophisticated than just preventing obvious harms.
Right. And here's the technical challenge. How do you even measure good summarization across cultures? What's considered essential information in one culture might be context or color in another. Japanese business communication, for example, often conveys critical information through what's not said directly. Try teaching that to a model trained on direct Western communication styles.
This feels like a problem that gets worse as these tools become more embedded, once people start trusting AI summaries by default.
That's the cliff we're racing toward. And the speed of adoption means we don't have time for the usual cycle of deploy first, fix problems later. Stick around. In our final segment, we'll give you specific strategies for implementing AI summarization more safely, plus a framework for evaluating these tools that every platform team needs to know.
All right, so given everything we've discussed, what should platform teams actually do? We can't just avoid AI summarization entirely. Our users expect these features.
You're right, and that's why we need a pragmatic approach. First principle, transparency. Every AI-generated summary should be clearly labeled. But more than that, users need access to the source material with one click, no exceptions.
That's straightforward enough. What about the technical implementation?
Here's a framework I've been developing with a few teams. First, implement what I call confidence scoring. The AI should indicate how certain it is about its summary. If it's summarizing content outside its training distribution, that score should be lower and users should see that.
How do you calculate that confidence score?
You can use perplexity metrics during generation, but more importantly, you need domain-specific validation. For technical documentation, you might check if key technical terms from the original appear in the summary. For multilingual content, you'd measure how much the model had to translate concepts versus directly mapping them.
Oh, that's clever. So you're essentially creating a quality metric that users can see.
Exactly. Second principle, diverse validation sets. Before deploying any summarization feature, test it across multiple languages, cultural context, and domain areas. And I mean really test it. Have native speakers review the summaries, not just run automated metrics.
That sounds resource intensive.
It is, but consider the alternative. One biased summary that goes viral can destroy user trust completely. We saw this with early translation tools. Remember when Google Translate would default to male pronouns for doctors and female pronouns for nurses? That reputational damage takes years to recover from.
Fair point. What about the guardrails themselves?
This is where it gets interesting. Instead of just trying to prevent bad outputs, build in comparative analysis. For any important summary, generate multiple versions using different prompting strategies, then highlight where they differ. Those differences are usually where the bias lives.
Can you give an example?
Sure. Let's say you're summarizing a policy document. Generate one summary optimizing for brevity, another preserving all stakeholder perspectives, and a third maintaining chronological order. Where those summaries diverge, that's where human review is essential. It's like getting multiple opinions from different experts.
That's actually brilliant. It acknowledges that there's no single correct summary.
Right. And here's something crucial for platform teams. Implement usage analytics that track not just how often summaries are generated, but how often users click through to the source material. If that click-through rate is too low, your users are over-relying on the summaries, and you need to adjust your UI to encourage more source verification.
What about the multilingual challenges we discussed?
For multilingual platforms, I recommend a home language priority approach. If content originates in Spanish, summarize it in Spanish first, then translate the summary if needed. Don't translate then summarize. That compounds the information loss. And always indicate the original language of the content.
That makes sense. Any other critical recommendations?
Yes. Implement what I call summary audits. Randomly sample AI summaries and have human experts review them, looking specifically for what was left out, not just what was included. Build this into your regular quality assurance process. And most importantly, create clear policies about what types of content should never be summarized by AI alone. Legal documents, medical records, safety-critical procedures.
Looking ahead, where do you see this technology going?
I think we'll will see a shift from AI summarization to AI-assisted summarization, where the AI provides a first draft that humans refine. We're already seeing this in some enterprise tools. The AI does the heavy lifting of information extraction, but humans make the editorial decisions about what's truly important.
That feels like a more sustainable approach.
It is. And here's my final thought. Roya Paxad's "don't trust the salt" metaphor is perfect because it reminds us that AI summarization, like salt, is a tool. Used thoughtfully, it enhances our ability to process information. Used carelessly, it distorts our understanding of the world. The key is knowing the difference.
And teaching our users to know the difference too.
Exactly. Because ultimately, this isn't just a technical challenge. It's about information literacy in the AI age. Every platform engineer building these features is also an educator, whether they realize it or not. The decisions we make about how to implement AI summarization will shape how millions of people understand the world around them. That's the opportunity and the responsibility we carry. Before we wrap up, let's catch up on this week's infrastructure news. There's a fascinating new development in the world of secure AI agents. Akamai just published their journey from Claudebot to OpenClaw, sharing practical lessons on building security-first autonomous systems.
OpenClaw, that's quite a name change. What prompted the shift from closed to open source?
According to their blog post, they discovered that transparency actually enhances security when building AI agents. They're essentially showing developers how to avoid common pitfalls when these systems interact with sensitive data and external APIs.
Speaking of AI expansion, OpenAI is making a major push into India. They've partnered with Pine Labs, the fintech giant, as reported by TechCrunch.
This is huge for the Indian payments ecosystem. Pine Labs processes billions in transactions, and they're integrating OpenAI's reasoning capabilities directly into their payment stack for automated settlements and invoicing.
That could really accelerate AI adoption in emerging markets. Fintech seems to be the perfect entry point.
Now, for the performance enthusiasts out there, NVIDIA just topped the GPU mode kernel leaderboard with their CUDA compute implementation.
The NVIDIA developer blog shows they're bridging that notorious gap between Python-based ML and raw GPU performance. This could be a game changer for teams struggling with computational bottlenecks.
And Google's not sitting still either. The Gemini 3.1 Pro preview just went live on Vertex AI.
Any standout features in this iteration?
While Google's keeping details close to the vest, the preview suggests significant improvements in reasoning capabilities and context handling. ML engineers should definitely check out the Model Garden.
Now, let's talk releases. Microsoft's semantic kernel just hit a major milestone with version 10.0.0 for their vector data package.
This is a big one. They've bumped to SK 1.7.2 and added SQL Server hybrid search capabilities. The Cosmos NoSQL provider now has better support for keys and partition management, crucial for anyone building RAG applications at scale.
And on the security front, Crew AI dropped version 1.10.0A1 with some important fixes.
They even forced stricter schema validation with additional properties set to false, which prevents unexpected data from sneaking into your AI workflows. Plus, they've added correlation IDs to LLM events for better debugging and declared stagehand as a proper dependency.
Those Brave Search API parameter additions could be useful for teams building research agents, too.
That wraps up today's news. That's our show for today.
If you found this valuable, please subscribe and share with a friend who'd appreciate it.
Drop us a comment with your thoughts on today's topic.
Links to everything we discussed are in the show notes.
Until next time.